Video 83. July 12, 2012. Again, here are some answers to questions that bring together hundreds of emails about these issues. Mythi, many friends want more details on upcoming events. You could tell us something more enlightening? Those who hoped for apocalyptic events were frustrated and reacted so childish, not understanding that. In fact, you were much helped in this important crossing. You remember last year that even your space station had to be evacuated and your space program was discontinued. Your governments knew what would happen and were caught by surprise by the events that followed. You did not lose your network of satellites and your space station last year by the intervention of Krullians. By neutralization of the comet Elenin, and the backwardness of the system Nibiru. But now it's time the event will not be alleviated, at least that is what is recorded. And is the event for which the underground shelters were planned for them. The Sun is reversing its poles and it will generate large spontaneous bursts of high power. To be directed to the alignment of the Earth gravitational tunnels that is already positioning aligned with the equator of the galaxy, greatly weakening the magnetic field of the planets. In all solar systems that are changing hemisphere. So, that's not going to be a normal solar cycle. One happens every full rotation of the galaxy. Remember the previous recommendations on how to protect yourselves. If these bursts reach your region, not out in the sun during the day, go out only at night. Many places will be very dry and fires can spread very easily. See, the planet will expand. It may be up to 5% larger in diameter due to the expansion of the magma. Under the effect of high radiation. You know what this will entail. The rearrangement of tectonic plates and the resulting earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanism. Not only the planet Earth will expand, all the planets of the system will suffer the same heating process. Your continents have this distribution today because the planet has expanded many times. In many cosmic cataclysms that have happened in its history. Much of the Pleiadians who live on planet Earth are being transferred to the TAUS. Therefore, seems that the cycle completion is near. Only the many units Pleiadians of control and rescue fleet are circling the planet. Scientists and supporting staff of Base Antarctic will also be transferred to TAUS. The base will continue in full operation with the specialized staff in its maintenance. 180 units Arcturian who run the various underground bases will work for the redemption. Our fleet will be divided among Pleiadians and Arcturians because we partake of the two operations as a liaison and operational control. The last card of your elites will be the war plan to be initiated at any time since the HARP system will not work. Because if connected during high solar activity its antennas will be destroyed. Your elites know that they will be isolated, without monetary control, no control of communications. And they want to take advantage of it because the masses have nowhere to run, except for their claws. They will try to maintain power by force, which is the only resource for which they prepared enough in these last years. I believe do not need to repeat everything I said earlier for these events, so be prepared, as you can, to face the facts. Try to stock up on basic food and medicines for a year or two, because if there is no quick rescue, You and your family can survive without major problems until things begins getting back to normal. If your area is too cold, try to plan to go to places with warmer temperatures, since no electricity or gas may be difficult to beat the cold. Distance from major cities and urban centers. Many very large spacecraft are crossing the solar portal these days. Do not know the details of the plans of CG, but it seems a major operation being organized. The Camelopardalis and Sirius are also very active in the system. Great movement also on the route Earth-Mars. Many ships with operators Greys are moving between bases of your governments and Martian bases, performing transportation of cargo. I've never seen the system as busy as now. I'll be passing the coordinates of all the friends that can help in the work for our navigating officer. So he put the data in the system of the fleet. So until your communications work, we are getting the coordinates. This is not a guarantee but a great possibility of redemption in the most affected regions. Once we know some detail, I communicate to you. Mythi, many questions remain about contacts multidimensional. Sorry, but you could still be a little more specific? Another dimension is another reference site for viewing and observation, undetectable by the standards of previous dimension. The scales of frequency in a given dimension defines how the brain functions are developed in their stages of activation, with consequent changes in the genome sequence and direct changes in the DNA of societies and people in that dimension. Another dimension is a different level of quantum energy. It does not interact with different dimensions as their matter does not touch. It's like you want to pick your shade with your hand. You know that the shadow exists, it is real, but is subject to the existence of a light source. It is only the absence of energy. A being from another dimension could never be seen with your eyes. Of the third dimension, even if he wants to be showing you. When I say you confuse dimension with levels of frequency, it is because you have not realized that there is no physical possibility of the matter interaction between dimensions. You are the zero level of the third dimension. Even being Crowleyans level 8, they cannot see beings of the fourth dimension, because it is impossible. You can see the Crowleyans and dozens of other breeds of various levels of brain activation as are all in the same dimension. The Crowleyans, like many other superior races, they can prevent minds less activated even realize his physical presence. With the simple blocking of these brain images, I can also do this. I would be expounding on the many differences in the 10 levels of brain activation of the third dimension for hours. And you would fall in yourself about the utopia of talking about multidimensional contacts. Keep in your minds that the whole universe in which we live is in the third dimension. The fourth dimension lives in a totally different level of energy, off the third dimension. Only your spirits, or as we call our light, goes to an intermediate level belonging to the fourth dimension, while waiting for your return to school of the third dimension. The earth will not for the fourth dimension, nor if you all die, so that the earth is not going anywhere, just you. Any well-meaning person talking about of other dimensions, you can be sure that they are confusing the meaning of the word dimension with different levels of brain activation of the third dimension. Maybe this idea has been inculcated into your popular culture by your elites, and it seems that they had enough effect. You will now get to level 1, your brains will become a new phase of activation. And your DNA for future generations will be rewritten in the gestation of your new child. I'm pretty sure that in this new phase, not to speak more in another dimension, when you begin to know races of various levels of brain activation, will better comprehend the concept of the third dimension of our universe that we all live. Look, I do not have the habit of poeticize information and not to include religious connotations. I'm technical. I know many of you enjoy storytellers, citing references of your cultures or religions, but facts are facts. In our culture we say that for a good listener, half word is enough, so we seek to speak little, and understand much. I believe being as clear as possible so that everyone can understand this.